I'm trying my hardest here, and I basically just started making CC. I'm no pro. I am not a professional. I haven't been doing it for years. I still mess up a lot, like a lot. I do. So yeah, I'm not really the best at this. I'm just taking everything that I do know, the little that I do know. I'm just trying to help you guys. Hello everyone, welcome back to Sims, and today I am doing part 2 of my how to make your own CC tutorial, shirt edition. I don't know how long it's been since I did part 1. I don't want to think about it because I promised part 2 like months ago, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I know this is like long overdue, but at least it's getting done. We left off with this. That was the first tutorial, was just Marvelous Designer. Yeah, so this will be exporting from Marvelous Designer, doing everything in Blender, and then importing into Sims4Studio. So if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. Become a member down below as well, and a patron on Patreon, and let's get started. So once you have your finished product, which we have right here, our Lisa top, before you start exporting your OBJ, we need to come up into the corner right here where it says simulation and press the drop down arrow, and you will get a couple of options. We need to go into the UV editor tab, which is right here. Should it look like this? So as you can see, all of the pieces of our mesh are just on top of each other, and we don't want it to be like this once we go into Blender, because if we do that, so like if we left it like this and we go into Blender, it would be so hard to pick apart the individual pieces, and it's just easier to do it in Marvelous Designer before you even get started. So yeah, we just need to move them from on top of each other and try to keep the pieces that are together, like the pieces that are sewed together, try to keep them close to each other, if that makes sense. This is the left sleeve, and this is the right sleeve right here. This is the back piece, this is the front piece. This goes to this sleeve, and this goes to that sleeve. So yeah, keep the front piece, the back piece separated, but keep them close together. Keep the sleeves separated, but keep them close together like this. See how this bottom sleeve piece goes to this sleeve piece? Keep them together so you won't get them mixed up. So what I tend to do, I like to keep the left sleeve on the left side of the pieces, and then put the right sleeve on the right side, just so I won't get them mixed up. It's just easier for me to understand when I'm making CC and stuff like that. But the number one thing to make sure when you are in the UV editor in Marvelous Designer and you're separating the pieces is that none of them overlap. If they overlap, then it'll just be harder, like I said, to separate them in Blender. So you don't want any overlapping. And I like to keep them all in the first quadrant right here. Doesn't really matter, that's just what I do. And yeah, once your mesh looks like this, you can get out of the UV editor and go back into simulation. And that's everything. But before we export, make sure you click the space bar or you simulate your mesh, just so we see how it looks in the long, or how it looks finished, you know what I'm saying, when it's all together. Okay, so once you finish everything in Marvelous Designer, you need to go up into the corner and press File, Export, OBJ. This window will show up, and you just need to save your OBJ into a place where you will remember where it's at. I recommend making a folder for all of your OBJs that you export from Marvelous Designer, and just name it something that you'll remember. I'll just name mine Lisa Top. I just put it right here because I already finished this mesh, so it's not really that big of a deal. Anyways, after you save it in your File Explorer, this other window will show up that says Export OBJ. You do not want to select all the avatars. You do not want to do that. The only time that you want to click on Select All Graphics and Trims is if you have like buttons or zippers on your mesh, which we do not have right now. So let's say we had a zipper. This will automatically be selected, and then you can press the drop down arrow, and then you can select everything that you want to export alongside the mesh. But we don't have any trims or buttons, buttonholes, or zippers, so we don't have to select that right now. But you do want to select all the patterns. You have to select that every time you export from Marvelous Designer. Single object, unweld, thin, unified UV coordinates PNG, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah, M blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Save what absolute texture image file path, blah 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 blah. Just copy everything that you see right here. Alright? I really can't explain it, but that's just the way it should be done. And after you do that, make sure you press OK. And now it's time for us to go into Blender 2.79. Alright, so you need two versions of Blender, version 2.79 and 2.70. Right now we're in 2.79. That's the first version that we will be in. Downloading Blender, at first it was really complicated. The tutorials that I did watch were just really complicated, and it was really, hard for me to download Blender for Sims4Studio because it was just so much, you know what I'm saying? But like after I did it the first time and I had to do it again, it was just really easy. So I do think I'm going to do a separate tutorial on how to download the versions of Blender that you need to make Sims4CC, because you definitely need these two versions. And I also have version 2.8 for my renders. And I know that sometimes like people wonder, why do I need two versions? It's because Sims4Studio only accepts Blender version 2.70 when you are importing meshes. For some reason, I don't know why, but yeah, I'm going to do a separate tutorial on how to download Blender because I know it can be confusing. So yeah, let's just finish this. So once you're in Blender version 2.79, you want to go up here to File and go to Open. And the first thing that we want to open is, it's been so long since I've made CC. Blah 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 blah. No, I lied to you. We're not gonna hop into Blender first. The first thing that you need actually will come from Sims4Studio. I already have it, so I skipped it at first, but then I remembered I was doing a tutorial, so I have to show you guys how to do it. And I do have a tutorial on how to download Sims4Studio. I will have that linked down below as well. Sims4Studio is essential in making CC. You cannot make CC without it. But yeah, after you get out of Marvel's Designer, you need to actually go into Sims4Studio first. And the reason we're doing that is because we need a nude mesh to work on our Marvel's Designer mesh on, if that makes sense. We need a nude mesh, that's what I'm trying to say. So you want to go over here where it says cast and go to create 3D mesh, and then press the big blue cast button after you've pressed create 3D mesh. So since we are making a female top, you want to change the gender to female, age to adult, and part type to top. And change the game pack to base game because that's where all the nude meshes are at. Wanna scroll. Yeah, right here. This is the female nude mesh right here. Just want to click it once and then press next. Then you will have the option to save the package file. This package file is not important, so you can just save it and then delete it after we get finished with this. You do not need the package file. So just save the package file, wait for it to load up, and this is how your Sims4Studio should look. Like this. After we've done that, you want to go to meshes. So this is the actual thing that we need to save and keep. This nude mesh you can use over and over again when you're making CC. You don't have to go back into Sims4Studio every time and export it time and time again. You only have to do it once and then save it in like a folder where you'll remember where it's at. After you've done that, you want to come over here and press export mesh. This is the mesh that we need to save somewhere that we will remember it. So just make a folder called like nude meshes and just save it there. I already have one, so I'm not gonna do it again, but save it in a folder that's probably called like nude meshes or something like that, and press save, and then it should save as a blend file on your computer. So after you've done that, you want to go back into Blender 2.79 and come over here in the corner and press file, open. Then you want to navigate to where you saved your nude mesh at. Mine is right here. So once you find it, you want to double click on the blend file and it should open into your Blender like this. The exact same way it looked in Sims4Studio. So the first thing that I like to do, I like to press 5 on the number pad. Not only does it give us a better view of the avatar, but we can zoom in on the mesh or on the avatar without it like looking weird. Because if you don't press 5, it'll look like this. So yeah, press 5 on the number pad. It's just do it. Just trust me, just do it. And then after we do that, we need to go back up where it says file and go to import OBJ, wavefront OBJ. And if you remember, our Marvel's Designer mesh is an OBJ file, so that is what we are importing right now. Navigate to where you saved your Marvelous Designer Mesh, and do not press the .mtl. Do not press that one. Only press the .obj. Double click it and it should automatically like fall on your avatar like this, like mine did. So after you've imported your mesh into Blender 2.79, you want to click on your mesh. Mine is named Lisa Top. Yours will be named whatever you named it when you saved it. Where it says S4Studio Mesh 1, that is the nude mesh that you saved from Sims4Studio. So you can double click that and rename it nude, just so you won't get confused, because we will be importing other things and you just don't want to get confused. So just name that nude, but go up to your mesh, mine is the Lisa Top, and click on this upside down triangle right here. This is object data. Click on that, scroll down to where you see UV map. Elongate that a little bit and double click on the UV map, and in all undercase, is it called undercase? Lowercase, not uppercase. In all lowercase letters, type in UV_0. I hope that made sense. I'm all over the place right now. And then click the plus sign right here to add another UV map. Double click that one, and in all lowercase, type in UV_1. Now we have 2 UV maps. That is essential. It is essential to make sure that it is in lowercase. Don't ask me why, but you just need to do that. After we do that, we need to import another mesh from Sims4Studio so we can do the data transfer. So let's go back into Sims4Studio, and we need to go back where it says create 3D mesh and click the class button. Change the gender to female, age to adult, part type to top, and game pack to base game, just so it can be easier for us to navigate. And you just want to scroll down until you see this right here, this strapless bra. It doesn't really matter which color you pick. I always use this one. Just click it once and press next. Like I said, it doesn't really matter where you save the package file. We will not be using that. You can delete it after you get finished with this. So the package file really doesn't matter right now. It should show up in Sims4Studio like this. This will be called your example mesh. We will be using the data from this to transfer it into our Marvelous Designer mesh. Why? I do not know, but we need to do that. So you need to go into the meshes tab right here and go down to the green button where it says export mesh. Click that once and this window will show up. You need to then save this somewhere where you will remember it. You don't want to forget this, because if you do forget where you put it at, then you will have to export it again. And you can, just like the nude mesh that we exported the first time, you can use both of these again and again when you're making CC. You don't have to always come back into Sims4Studio and export them every time you make a piece of CC. So you don't have to do that. So like I said, save it somewhere memorable. But yeah, after you do that, make sure you press save and it will start exporting the mesh. And now we need to go back into Blender 2.79. Come up here where it says file and append. We are appending another blend file. Yeah, and then you want to navigate to where you saved your example mesh that we just got from Sims4Studio. Double click the blend file and then these folders will show up. You want to go to the object folder and double click that. And then where it says S4Studio_mesh_1, that is the one that we will be using today. So double click that and it should show up in your Blender like this. Very weird looking. So you want to come over here to this menu and delete the bone shape. We do not need that, and you have to delete, well, you don't have to, but it's just better that you delete stuff that you don't need. And this other rig where it says rig.001, you want to click that and then right click it and press delete, because we do not need it and it's just taking up space. So after you have imported the example mesh, it will show up over here as S4Studio Mesh 1, just like what our nude mesh was originally called. So the example mesh, what I like to do, I like to double click it and then name it example. And then we won't get it confused with anything else that we import or anything else that we have already. So we have our example mesh, our Lisa top, and our nude. So you want to click on the example mesh, hold shift, and click on your Marvelous Designer mesh, which in my case is the Lisa top. After you've done that, you need to go to this tool right here. I don't know if it's a wrench or I don't know. It's like a tool, so just click on it. And this is our modifiers tab. You want to click on where it says add modifier and find where it says data transfer right here. It's the very first one, so it's not that hard to find. Just click it. And so yeah, the source object would be the example mesh, and you want to click face corner data, and in this box where it says nearest corner and best matching face normal, click on that and change it to nearest face interpolated. Click on UVs, change all layers to UV1, and where it says by name, you want to change it to UV1 as well. Face data should already be clicked on, and everything else you want to leave the same and press apply. And nothing changed physically, but the data on our Marvelous Designer mesh is now the right way. I think that's the best way to call it. I'm not sure, but yeah, just do everything that I just did and you should be okay. But after we've done the data transfer, what I like to do, I like to come up here where it says example, and I like to press the eye tool, this eye tool. If the eye is closed, that means that the mesh cannot be seen. But if the eye is open, that means you can see the mesh. But we can't see the mesh because our Marvelous Designer mesh is on top of it. So if I were to hide our Lisa top and then make the example mesh visible, see it shows up. But once I press the eye and close it, it disappears. That's what I'm trying to say. But make sure, yeah, I was just showing that to you guys because I thought it was cool. But I remember when I watched a tutorial on how to make CC, they kept hiding the mesh, and when I first started, I did not know what that was, and I was so confused because they just kept pressing it, and I'm like, where did the mesh go? And it took me about a good month to figure out what they actually pressed. So I just want to explain everything to you guys so you won't be confused like I was. And next to the eye tool, there is this mouse tool, and if I'll call it clicker tool, I don't know. If this is not grayed out, that means that you can select on the mesh. But let's say I gray it out on the Lisa top. I can't click on the Lisa top now. It's basically not there. You know what I'm saying? So make sure that's not grayed out and that it's visible so you can click on your mesh. And the camera tool, I don't really know what that does. I don't really mess with that, but like go off, I guess. I don't know. But after that, what was I saying? We hit the example mesh. So after you've done the data transfer, you can click on your Marvelous Designer mesh and click tab. Tab will take you into edit mode, and if you are in edit mode and you press tab, that will take you into object mode. But since we were in object mode and we pressed tab, it took us into edit mode. So if you come over here into the UV editor, it kind of looks weird, and that is because we just finished the data transfer. If you finish the data transfer and it does not look like this, then you did something wrong and you need to rewind the video and start over, because it should look like this. To give you guys a better idea as to what I'm talking about, you can come down here to this bottom panel and use your scroll wheel on your mouse to go left and right. This icon, if you click on it, what it does is it keeps the UV editor tab and the edit mode mesh in sync. So whatever I select over here will be selected over there. I like to keep that selected because it just makes it more convenient for me as a creator in Blender, you know. But yeah, just make sure you click that, and if you press A is to select everything or deselect everything. Just letting you guys know. So like I said, after the data transfer, your mesh should look like this. If it doesn't, like I said, rewind, go back, you did something wrong. But the reason it looks like this is because we are still in UV1. If you don't remember what UV1 is, it's the UV maps that we made earlier. So just keep everything like this, and what we need to do now is go to our nude avatar, nude mesh that we imported from Sims4Studio earlier. And what we are going to do now is we are going to delete all of the vertices that we cannot see, all of the vertices that are hidden by our Marvelous Designer mesh. So anything that is underneath the Lisa top, any of these vertices that are underneath the top, we can't see them. So why do we need them? They're useless. So we are going to delete them. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Okay. So the first thing that you need to do when you are deleting these vertices is you need to go down here to this panel right here, and where it says face select, click that, because I don't like being in vertice select because it really limits me, and when I go in face select I just feel better. So go in face select. So yeah, after you are in face select, the only thing that we need to do is make sure everything is selected, then press C on your keyboard and this circle should show up. You can make it bigger or smaller by using your scroll wheel on your mouse, but I press C and then I click using the scroll wheel to delete everything that I can see with my eye, basically. So press C, make it smaller or bigger, then use the scroll wheel to click on all of the faces that you can see, and then they will turn from orange to like black, or basically not orange. They won't be orange anymore if you click on them with the scroll wheel. So press C, click on them, everything that you can see. And basically, since these are not selected anymore, once we delete everything that we cannot see, these won't be deleted. Because like if you make CC and then like let's say you make a top with like the neck showing and then you delete the neck, that'll look really weird. You don't want to do that. You want to keep everything that you can see. So yeah, just do what I'm doing. I hope I explained that right. Press C, make it smaller or bigger, and then delete it by clicking the scroll wheel. Yes, that's the best way to explain it. And since this is a crop top, we need to do it down on her stomach as well. That should be good. That's pretty neat to me. No, when I delete vertices, sometimes when I'm here in the 3D window, I'll just start deleting vertices, but then once I go into the UV editor, it'll look really messy. So then if it's really messy, once you do your UV mapping, it's just so much harder to do because all of the vertices are jagged and just everywhere. So I just like to make sure I do a good, neat job, you know what I'm saying? So I don't have to come back and redo it. But when it comes to hands, you could do it by using the tool by pressing C, but it's just so much easier if you just come over here and press B, not C, but B, and basically click using the scroll wheel and drag it all the way over and then let it go. And now everything on the hand and some of the wrist is not selected because we want to keep that so we can see it on our mesh. You don't want the hands to just disappear if you don't want to delete them because they need to be there, or else the sim won't have any hands and that's just like really weird. So don't do that, okay? Okay. But anyways, like I was saying, this is pretty neat to me. I might delete this one just so I can be extra. And like, yeah, that's our mesh. No, I'm just playing, but that should be everything. So after you have deselected, what we just did was called deselecting. We deselected everything that we can see. So once you have everything that you cannot see selected and everything that you can see deselected, you want to go into the 3D window, press X, and go down to where it says faces. And basically nothing changed because like I said, the vertices underneath the Marvelous Designer mesh we can't see, so they're useless. So even when we deleted them, it didn't change anything. You know what I'm saying? So really, it's not that big of a deal now. They weren't that important. But when we deleted them, it really took a lot of, like, I guess you could say, weight off of the mesh. You know what I'm saying? Always delete stuff that's useless. If you have no use for it, why do you have it? That's what I'm saying. Don't keep stuff that you don't need. That's what I'm trying to say. It just takes up space, unnecessary space that you can use for something else. And like I said, this is also important to do because we have to do UV mapping. And UV mapping, I have a lot to say about that. Oh boy, do I. This was not explained to me at first, but I need to explain it to you guys because I love you guys and I want to make sure you guys do this as accurate as possible. So when it comes to UV mapping, you need, let me pull up something. Let me pull up something real quick. I gotta show y'all. I gotta show y'all what I'm trying to tell y'all. If that no, I'm trying to, let me just explain this to y'all real quick. So right now we are in photos. We're not blah. Before I explain this, make sure you go in Blender and press File, Save As, so we won't lose anything. I completely forgot to remind you guys, so make sure you save as you're going so you won't delete anything or like forget anything, because you know your computer could crash or like your power could go out, anything could happen. So make sure you save as you go. Where should I save mine at? I have a folder full with blend files. It's just filled to capacity. Like, it's just, I have so much random stuff in it, but it's all blend files. So yeah, right now we are in my photos thingy, and what this is called right here is a UV map. A UV map is really essential with blah when you're making CC. You need this or else your CC will be doo-doo. Alright, so this was not explained to me when I first started making CC, and that's why my CC was like really low quality and horrible and nobody downloaded it. Because when I first watched the tutorial, they said that UV mapping is so hard, but like, it's not hard. Once it's explained to you the right way, you can just breeze right through it, just like that. You know what I'm saying? But what's really important to remember when you are UV mapping is that you need enough space to make your mesh as big as possible, so when you do the textures, your textures could look as good as possible. See, nobody told me that at first, but now I know that and I'm passing this information on to you guys. So basically what I'm trying to say is, if we did not delete those extra vertices that we could not see, everything that you see right here in top would be filled. So let's say that these vertices are filled, you know what I'm saying, in top. In the UV map, when you're making a top, you have to keep everything, like, okay, if my mesh is a top, I have to keep it in the top section. If I'm making a bottom, I have to keep it in the bottom section. If I'm making a hat, I have to keep it in the hat section. Hair stays in the hair section, and so on and so forth. But since we are making a top, I will focus on that. So if we did not delete those extra vertices, we would basically have nowhere to put our mesh besides these empty spaces where there are no vertices. Right here between the arms and right here at the bottom of the arms, which is basically not a lot of space, especially if you have a lot of pieces to your mesh, which is why you need to delete the extra vertices that you don't need. So since we deleted a lot of stuff from like right here, we can then use that empty space to put our mesh right there, so we can make our mesh as big as possible. And if you are UV mapping and you make your mesh really small, like if you make it really small and put it between the arms, let's say the front piece, and then you put textures on your mesh in like Photoshop, the textures will look really bad and blurry. And for the longest, I could not understand why my textures were so bad. And it's because when I was UV mapping, I made the mesh pieces so small. So what I'm saying is always delete the extra vertices that you cannot see, because they are useless and they're just wasting space. And you always need as much space as you can when you are UV mapping. I pray to God that made sense. If that did not make sense, I will just explain it better in post editing. But yeah, my throat is killing me. Okay, so let's go back into Blender because I spent a lot of time on that. but it's really important. Nobody explained that to me. So after you've deleted everything, all the vertices that you don't need, we then need to merge the nude mesh in our Marvelous Designer mesh. So click on your Marvelous Designer mesh first, and then click on the nude mesh by holding shift and then clicking on it. Your Marvelous Designer mesh should be orange and the nude mesh should be yellow. Bring your cursor over here to the 3D window and press Ctrl J. J stands for join, and what we are doing is joining the two meshes together into one. After you've done that, you can then press Ctrl S to save your project so you won't lose any progress. So now the nude mesh and the Marvelous Designer mesh is just all one mesh. And if you press tab and go into edit mode, your Marvelous Designer mesh should still be selected and not the nude mesh. So bring your cursor over to the UV editor and press G to move your Marvelous Designer mesh to the bottom of the nude mesh, just so they won't overlap and they won't get mixed up. All you have to do, if you do overlap them on accident, you can come over here to the 3D window and click on one of the faces of your Marvelous Designer mesh and press L, and that'll select that entire piece. Basically, so if you press L, it will select the entire piece, and it's just easier for me and basically anybody if you want to select a certain piece in Blender. Same thing with the sleeve. You can come over to the sleeve and press L again on one of the faces, and it'll select it again, and do that to the entire mesh. Every piece of the mesh, just go over to one of the faces and press L. And once you select the entire mesh, it'll be reselected again, just in case, you know, you do get them overlapped. I just wanted to show you guys an easy way to select one part of the mesh, and so it won't take forever. And then once you select the Marvelous Designer mesh, you can press G to move it away from the nude mesh, just so they won't get mixed up until we start UV mapping, which I think that's what we are going to do right now. So this base template that I have right here, I will put it up for download so you guys can download it yourselves. But I have the HQ version. I don't have the regular version, because why make a regular version if you can make an HQ version? I don't see why not. But like I was saying, I will put this up for download so you can have it yourself. This is the 2048 by 4096 version. Those dimensions are for the HQ mod, so it can be more high quality. So that's what I use. But basically what you want to do, once you have the base template downloaded, come over here to the UV editor and press A, and then press it again to select everything. Nude mesh, Marvelous Designer mesh, everything. Then go back to File Explorer, click on the base template and drag it to the UV editor. Now that won't work if you don't have everything selected, and I didn't know that for the longest. So make sure you have everything selected, then click and drag the base template onto the UV editor, and everything should be okay. And now as you can see, the nude part of the mesh looks fine, it looks normal. But the Marvelous Designer mesh part does not look normal at all. So what we need to do, you can press B and then like click and drag over it and select the Marvelous Designer part and press S, X, 2, enter. And now it should look normal the way it was before. So now we are on to UV mapping. UV mapping, like I said, it seems hard at first, but it's really not. It's mainly just about having common sense, I guess. I don't know. The way that a lot of people described it to me at first was like it was just the hardest thing to do, when in reality, it's just not that hard. I don't know. To me, it's not hard. It's kind of, I'm not going to say it's fun because it now make me seem weird. But I don't know. I don't think it's as hard as a lot of people made it out to be. Did that make sense? I hope it did. When you are UV mapping, you want to make sure you stay in your lane. Do not put a top mesh in bottom. Do not put a top mesh in shoes. Don't put a shoes mesh in hair, so on and so forth. Why? Why is that? I'm saying that because it's annoying. If you put your top mesh in bottom, then it will not work with pants. The textures will overlap and it'll look weird, and you don't want that. I'm sorry, I just really don't like when people do that. I understand that you want a high quality mesh, but it's annoying when you put your top mesh in the bottom part, because then the textures overlap and it just looks so weird. So don't do that. Stay in your lane. If you're making a top, keep it in top. If you're making a bottom, keep it in bottom, and so on and so forth. Don't do that, okay? Do not do that. Just follow my lead, all right? So like I said, since we are making a top, we will stay in the green part. The most important part to me when I am making a mesh, when it comes to textures, is the front. Because that's where I usually put like graphics and logos and all the beautiful stuff, you know what I'm saying? So I like to make the front as big as possible. So you can click on one of the faces and press L like we did earlier. So we can click on the entire part, and I'll just move it and just experiment. So like press G to move it. G means translate, and translate means to move. So press G and click it where you want to put it at. And S means scale. Scale means to make something bigger or larger. And R means rotate. Make it, you know what rotation is. So I'm pressing G right now, and then I'll press S to scale it. You want, like I said, you need to stay in your lane. So do not go anywhere you're not supposed to be. I could keep it right here, but I could also put it right here, and I could put it right here, and then like RX90 to rotate it like to the left or right really quickly, and then scale it again. I could put it right here if I wanted to, but I could also put it right here if I wanted to be like really extra, make it really big. Because like with this top, I only put designs in the front, so I want the designs to be as high quality as possible. So quite naturally, I'm going to make this part the biggest part, you know what I'm saying, because I want it to be the best quality. If the other parts are just like a solid color, they don't really matter that much, you know what I'm saying? But this is your mesh, so you know which parts you will design and put important stuff on, you know what I'm saying? So like if the sleeve has like a important logo, you want to make that sleeve as big as you can, so then the logo will be the best quality that it can. I hope that makes sense. So I don't think I'll make it, should I make it this big? Why not? Why not? Who's stopping me? And then I think I'll put the sleeves. Hold on, wait. I'll move this sleeve next to this one, and then Shift L so I can select them both. And I'll probably put the sleeves like right here. Because like I said, the sleeves are going to stay a solid color, so they're really not that important, you know what I'm saying? But they look pretty good right here. And then I'll move the sleeves bottom pieces next to each other. Shift L and move them right underneath the sleeves right here. And everything is where it belongs. It's not in any other places. It's not in bottom or shoes, or is it? And it's not peeking into the gray part either, so that's pretty good. And the last part is the back piece. So click on one of the faces, press L, G to move it, S to scale it down some, G to move it again, and then press RX90 to move it to the right, or to rotate it to the right. And then you can also press RX -90 to rotate it to the left. Left is negative, positive is right. We all learned that in 2nd grade. But the back part is really not that important because I don't really put anything on the back part. You know what I'm saying? Who looks at the back? You know, so just like put that wherever you want. I think I'll RX90 this one to the right. GS. Another thing that you need to keep in mind when you are UV mapping. I've spent a lot of time on UV mapping in this tutorial, and that's only because it's very important. You need to do this right, or else it just won't look right. UV mapping is important when it comes to textures, okay? And textures are important when it comes to making your mesh look good, okay? So we need to make the best quality mesh that we can. So another thing that I failed to mention, but I'm mentioning now, is that your Marvelous Designer Mesh, well, I think I mentioned this, but when you're UV mapping, your Marvelous Designer Mesh cannot, under any circumstances, overlap the nude mesh. So I can't put the front piece on top of the hands. Do not do that. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't do that. your Marvelous Designer mesh and the nude mesh cannot overlap. That'll be very weird, and I do not recommend that. Just don't do it, okay? Don't do that. Make sure nothing is overlapping. Nothing. Make sure your Marvelous Designer parts aren't overlapping. Make sure your Marvelous Designer parts aren't overlapping on the nude mesh. No overlap. That's what I'm trying to say. At all. And once you make sure everything is absolutely 100% okay, we can move on to the next step, which is Blender 2.70. I think I explained everything pretty well. I hope I did. If I didn't, just leave any questions, and if I can answer them, I will. If I can't answer it, I am so sorry. But I'm trying my hardest here, and I basically just started making CC. I'm no pro. I am not a professional. I haven't been doing it for years. I still mess up a lot, like a lot. I do. So yeah, I'm not really the best at this. I'm just taking everything that I do know, the little that I do know. I'm just trying to help you guys, especially since this has been requested a lot. Like, you guys almost every day ask me, Fam Sims, when is part 2 of the Marvelous Designer tutorial coming out? And I'm so sorry, like I said earlier. But yeah, I'm just trying my hardest, so yeah, don't judge me. But like I said, we need to go into Blender 2.70 so we can finally wrap this up. And yeah, I'll see you there. Okay, so we need to leave Blender 2.79 and hop into Blender 2.70 so we can finally finish up everything that we need to do. Blender 2.70 doesn't really take that much time, you know what I'm saying? It's just like 2 steps that we need to do. And then we'll be on our way to Sims4Studio, and then we'll be finished, thank God. Doing these 2 steps in Blender 2.79, because I know maybe someone out there is wondering, why can't we just do everything in Blender 2.79? Because it won't look as good. You know, if you transfer weights in Blender 2.79, it just won't look as good. You know what I'm saying? So it's just best to do it in 2.70, and you need 2.70 because it's the only version that's compatible with Sims4Studio. And we will be exporting from Blender 2.70 into Sims4Studio, not 2.79, if that made sense. So yeah. But yeah, once you are in 2.70, go to File, Open, and open up the save that you had in 2.79. So before we left, or sorry, I should have said this, but before you leave 2.79, make sure you save the blend file, which I hope you already did, but I probably should have said that. Make sure you save it. Make sure you save it. Control S it, you know, and once you save it, go to 2.70 and navigate to that save file. It should be a .blend, so go to it. Mine, I don't even know what mine is called. FWAERDG? What? Yeah, so basically the save from 2.79 should now be open in 2.70. You'll probably get a prompt that says expect loss of data. Just ignore that. I think that's only there because we're moving a save file from a newer version of Blender to a older version. It's really not that big of a deal. Just ignore it. It should look the exact same way that it looked in Blender 2.79. But what we need to do now, you should still have the example mesh from earlier. Click the eye tool next to it so it can be visible now. And the first thing that we need to do is transfer weights, which I'm really not going to explain because I really don't understand a lot about that myself. I know that there are some CC creators that know way more than me, especially when it comes to weights and joints and bones. But unfortunately, I don't know a lot about all of that. So maybe one day somebody can teach me. But as for now, I don't know a lot about all that. So yeah, click on the example mesh, and then hold shift and click onto your nude mesh, which it's named nude, but in reality it's your the Marvelous Designer mesh plus the nude mesh. But just for the sake of time and whatever, I'm just gonna call it nude mesh. So click on the example mesh and click on the nude mesh, and then you want to navigate to this bottom panel and click right here and go to solid mode. Then right here where it says object mode, change it from object mode to weight paint. And now your mesh should be blue. Now you want to come over here and navigate to where it says transfer weights, press it once, give it some time, and yeah. The way that I know that it's finished is that after you press transfer weights, these 3 things down here will show up. You don't do anything with those. That's just how you know that it transferred the weights, that it's finished transferring the weights. To make sure you did that right, you can come down here to where it says pinky and thumb and index and pelvis and forearm twist. You can click on those and it should have this like rainbow thingy. I don't really know what to call it, but it should have some color there. So like if you click on shoulder twist, it should have some color there. It shouldn't just be blue once you click on it. So you can just do that. If everything shows up on yours the way it's showing up on mine, then you are doing a great job so far. So we don't need this example mesh anymore, so you can just click it, then right click it and press delete. We don't need it anymore. And click on your nude mesh and go from weight paint to vertex paint. And now it should look like this. This is really easy, probably the easiest step. Click on this white bar right here, click on the eyedropper tool, click on the green part, come down here, press paint, set vertex colors, and now your entire mesh should be green. Go from vertex paint to object mode, and yeah, you're basically finished now. The only thing that we have left to do is import the mesh into Sims4Studio. Yeah, that should be everything. But to make sure you've done everything right and everything like that, you can come over here to rig and press the eye and the clicker tool, and these dots should show up. These are rigs. You can click on one of them, come down here to the rotation tool and just move it around, like click on the green part and drag it just to see if everything moves the way it should. And as you can see, mine is moving the way it should. So after you test that out, press Ctrl Z so you can undo any movements that you made, and then click on the eye and the clicker tool again, because we don't really want the rig to be visible. There's no reason for it to be visible. And yeah, after you finish all that, go to File, Save As, and save it as Lisa Top Done, or the name of your mesh and then done at the end. I like to do that so I know that this is the finished product of everything. And then save it as a blend file. And now it's time to go into Sims4Studio. I don't recommend this. I do not recommend importing your meshes that we just made in Blender. I don't recommend importing those on like nude meshes. Now let me explain this real quick. So if you have probably noticed, when you put on a certain CC creator's CC in The Sims 4 and then you go in game, your sim will like feel really embarrassed. And you're probably like, why are they embarrassed? It's not like they're naked. Well, they think that they are naked because whoever made the CC, when they imported it into Sims4Studio, they imported it on a bra or like a nude mesh, and so the sim thinks that they are naked basically, when in reality they aren't. But I'm just telling you guys so you won't end up with that problem. So basically what I'm trying to say is, when you get finished with everything in Blender, you go to Sims4Studio, create 3D mesh, click on the big cost button. We need to then import our mesh on one of EA's meshes. I like to import mine on one of these tank tops right here. So just click on one of the tank tops, click it once, and then press next. Now this package file is important. This is the package file to your CC, and you need this package file if you want to put it up for download or access it sometime in the future. So save it in your mods folder. And yeah, now this is how it looks at first. This is EA's mesh, not ours. We do not want this, we want our own mesh. So you want to come over here to meshes, the meshes tab, and press import, and then navigate to wherever you saved your blend file from 2.70. The one that we named Lisa Top Done. That's the blend file that you want to import into Sims4Studio. Once you find it, double click it, and now all we have to do now is wait until it's finished importing. Because I'm gonna do a separate video about textures, but in order for us to test it out in game, I basically have to tell you guys this in this video. But I'll do another video more in depth about textures another time. Sometimes when you import the mesh into Sims4Studio, it can take a long time, and in this case it didn't take that long, and the time really is up to how many polygons your mesh is. So if it's like really big, it'll take really long. One time I made a pair of earrings, and what I did not know is that the earrings were 100,000 polygons. I did not know that, and I just absent-mindedly imported it into Sims4Studio, and it took about a couple of hours. And I'm sitting there, I'm so dumb. I was sitting there, I'm like, okay, why is it taking so long? It was 100,000 polygons. My computer could have like exploded. I don't know. It's because I added like a couple of diamonds. Well, what I'm trying to say is the more polygons that there are, the longer it will take to import into Sims4Studio. In order for us to test this out in game, we do have to put a texture on it. And like I said earlier, I'm going to do a separate video that's more in depth on the textures in the future. But as of right now, I'm just going to teach you guys how to make a simple texture just so you can test out your top in game. Make sure everything is the right way, so on and so forth. But let me see, how do we do this? The way I make my textures, just really quick, come over to the UV editor, click on the nude parts of the mesh, Shift L on all of them, Shift L on the hands, back, and the neck. Come over to the 3D window, press X, faces, and all of the nude parts of the mesh are deleted, and we only have our top. So I delete it, Make sure you delete the example mesh, and right now we are in Blender 2.79. So like I said, delete the example mesh and delete the new parts of the mesh. Go to your top and come over here to where it says add modifier. What I like to do is, this isn't how I do my textures, but this is, like I said, just so we can test it out in game. So this really depends on how good your computer is. But go to add modifier and go to subdivision surface. And what you want to do is you want to change the view to either 2 or 3. It really depends on how good your computer is. If you don't think your computer can handle this, then don't do it. But basically, subdivision surface, it like multiplies the vertices, so the texture of the top can be better quality. So if I put it on 2, the vertices will change from 38,000 to 140,000. And if I put it on 3, it'll go from 140,000 to 547,000. And that's a lot of vertices. So if your computer cannot handle that big of an amount of vertices, do not do this. But if you can, if you are confident that your computer can handle it, then proceed to do so. But I'm just going to put the view up to 3 and then press apply. Come over. Now the more vertices that you have in Blender, the laggier Blender will get. So it'll probably be quite laggy, but like I said, it really depends on your PC and how many vertices you have in Blender. But come over here to the camera tool right here. This is for rendering. You want to go all the way down to where it says bake right here. Change it to ambient occlusion, normalized, that should be checked. Change the margin from 16 to 4 and press bake. Press bake. Why did I say it like that? Yeah, and press bake. This shouldn't take that long. The amount of time this takes, I think, also depends on how many vertices you have in Blender, stuff like that. So yeah, and how good your computer is as well. That did not take that long though. So as you can see, we have a texture. This is just a test texture. This isn't our final texture or anything like that. Now, some problems I ran into when I was texturing that I'm going to tell you guys now. If you have anything that overlapped, then your textures might be like all black, or it might be like black with like dots in it. It'll look really creepy and scary if anything overlaps, which is why I said make sure you have no overlap. Now, I didn't teach this in this tutorial, but sometimes in Marvelous Designer meshes, some of the parts might be transparent. So when you go into Blender, you might have to duplicate that part so it'll be, what's the word? So you can see it on both sides. So you might have to duplicate it And sometimes when you do the textures, the duplicated parts will overlap, and then when you render it, it'll look black and it'll have dots in it and spikes, and it just looks really creepy. So what I'm trying to say is make sure you have no overlap whatsoever, and if you don't have any overlap, your texture should come out just fine like this. But I will explain more of that in my texture tutorial later on in the future. And yeah, normalized, I don't know what that really means. If you didn't click normalized, then the render would have came out black, not like black with dots on it, but just like all black, and then we won't be able to see the shadows, which is why I pressed normalize so we could see the shadows. And yeah, this is just our test texture for now. So after you do that, come down here to this panel and use the scroll wheel to go from left to right. Click on image, save as image, and just save this texture somewhere where you will remember it in the future. I recommend making a folder for your textures if you want to, but make sure you save it somewhere where you can access it later on. Now before you press save, come down here where it says save as image and turn the compression all the way up to 100 and change the color depth from 8 to 16. Just so we can have the best quality possible for this, and then press save as image. And after some time, it should save, and then we can hop right back into Sims4Studio. Before you import any of your textures for your top, go to shadow and make it blank, specular, make it blank, normal, make it blank, emission, make it blank, and all that. Make sure everything is blank except for the diffusion tab, which you cannot make blank, you just have to import something else over it. So go to the blue button and press import, and navigate to where you saved your texture, double click it, and it should show up. Another thing about Sims4Studio, which I have mentioned in the past, Sims4Studio, when it comes to images, they only take PNGs, so they won't take any GIFs or JPGs. So just keep that in mind. So this is how our top looks in Sims4Studio, kind of basic. I really don't care. This is how it looks. Yours should look somewhat similar to mine, but not exactly the same way. Unless you like copied me to a T, which I highly doubt, but if you did that, then it'll probably look exactly the same way. But before we hop into the Sims, what we need to do is add a catalog thumbnail just so we can access it in the Sims. So you can make your own thumbnail. Should I teach you how to do that now? I don't know if I feel like it. I'll probably do a separate video on how to do thumbnails specifically, because I know a lot of people struggle with that as well, and it's really not that hard. But I'm not going to show you how to do that now. But you need a test thumbnail so you can access your CC in the Sims when you are looking for it. So I'll just add a random picture of, like, I don't know, just find a picture and just make sure it's a PNG and import that so you can access your top in the Sims. What can I put? I have a picture of emo Steve Harvey. I said Steve Harvey. I meant Steve Harvey. What about this emoji? Okay, that emoji worked. Like I said, you can make a professional test thumbnail in like Canva or Photoshop. Just make sure the dimensions are 104 by 148. That's the dimensions for a cast thumbnail. Then you can import it and you can find your CC in game. But I'm just going to use this random emoji, like I said, to make sure it's a PNG. And after you do that, you can press save. And now it's time for us to hop into The Sims 4. But before we do that, make sure that you have your package file in your mods folder. And you can do so by looking up here at the top and making sure the file path name has Sims 4 mods and then the name of your package file. So make sure it's in your mods folder, and after you do that, you can press save and hop into The Sims. Okay, so I am in The Sims now, and I need to find the top that we just made. If you want, like I said earlier, the finished version of this top, it is available on our website, linked below. You can download it. I believe it's free and public for everybody. But yeah, you just need to scroll until you find your thumbnail, and then that thumbnail will be your top, and then we can test it out in a game. But I need to find it first, and hopefully it shows up. Because if it doesn't, then I did something wrong, and I don't feel like going through that right now. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here is the top right here. It looks pretty good to me. Take your sim and put them in a household so we can test out the shirt in game. But like I said, if you imported the top the way that the right way, then your sim shouldn't feel embarrassed and your CC should just look normal. But we didn't do like LODs or anything like that yet, but I'll probably do tutorials on that in the future. I'm not gonna do it in this video. LODs, tutorials, thumbnails, those will all be in separate videos. But as for right now, yeah, the top looks pretty good to me. I think that's everything, and this reshade looks so good, like. And that's everything I'm going to show you guys in this tutorial. Like I said, I'm going to do some more tutorials on how to download Blender, how to do textures properly, and how to make custom thumbnails and stuff like that, and how to do LODs, which are essential when you are putting up CC for people to download. And yeah, if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. If you have any questions, I will try my hardest to answer all of them. Become a patron on Patreon and a member down below as well. And I love you all so much. Goodbye.